You are listening to the E2C Network, where the Auburn family speaks.
Morning, Auburn family, and welcome back to Inside the Jungle, your source for Auburn men's basketball analysis and discussion on the E2C Network. And I just have to pause real quick for just a quick second. I know this is an audio podcast, but I just saw you on Zoom dancing for some foreseen reason while I was doing my intro.
What's the record?
20-1. But we are here to talk about today about another W for your Auburn Tigers, the number one in the country ranked Auburn Tigers, as they win their part of the SEC Big 12 Challenge. They defeat the Oklahoma Sooners 86-68 in Auburn Arena, improving to 20-1 on the year. The one loss, that UConn game, will live in infamy as of right now. But this Auburn team has the highest active win streak in the country right now after Davidson lost the other night. I mean, it's to discuss this week in Auburn basketball. I brought in my dad and co-host. Dad, can you stop dancing, please?
No, we're 20-1, man. We're 20-1.
Yeah,
one of only two teams in America that's won 20 games. The other one being Murray State, who Auburn Twitter is friends with.
Yeah.
Murray State, after Tevin Brown did what he did.
Yeah.
So the two teams with 20 wins are us and Murray State. Yeah. So it's pretty good company.
Yeah, and Auburn beating Murray State earlier in the year by 13 in Auburn Arena. That game looks a lot better now, and there's a few of them that are starting to look really good for Auburn.
Is that the best team in Kentucky? Just kidding.
After watching what Kentucky did to Kansas, I was like, maybe not. No. But no, I mean that they are really good though. Let's get in. Let's just get right into this Auburn basketball game. This Oklahoma team, they come in statistically as one of the better offensive teams in the country, and shooting top 30 in the country in most offensive categories, and struggling to get wins because that Big 12 conference is something in basketball this year, even though they did lose the SEC Big 12 Challenge.
Second best conference in America.
Yep. But this Oklahoma team, it never felt like Auburn wasn't in control in this basketball game.
Okay, I would agree with that. I was a little worried when they cut it to 3. And then Devin Cambridge had 5 straight points, and kind of ended that for them. It's always been Jabari doing the work, but Devin got a rebound, an offensive rebound, which is becoming redundant to say that.
Yeah.
Got an offensive rebound and got fouled, made both free throws, and then got an offensive rebound on a Jabari 3 off a Walker Kessler steal, and put it up and in, and got fouled and made the free throw and had 5 straight points. It's back up to 8, and it never got close again.
Yeah,
so I would agree. Yeah,
no, Devin has had quite a week of basketball. I will say that especially in the offensive rebound, just like you guys, kind of redundant saying that, but that was so big in this game, especially when they cut it to 3. And you said you got a little worried. I wasn't, because you know why? Because they don't have number 10. And Jabari Smith, if he hasn't had that game yet where NBA teams are like, okay, yeah, he's the number 1 pick, then Saturday was that game, because Jabari Smith looked like the best player out there. It wasn't even close. He had 23 points of 6 of 14 from shooting, 2 for 5 from 3, 9 for 10 from the free throw line. He had 12 rebounds. He had 2 steals. He had a plus minus of plus 25 in 32 minutes. Talk about a game to solidify yourself at number 1.
And there were a lot of scouts in attendance. Obviously, there's going to be scouts in attendance at all of our games. So this is the game that the Oklahoma was known for their guards defensively, and they were good. The Goldwire kid from Duke is a really good defender, and he wrapped Wendell up pretty good when Wendell was in the game. But so what we did is we said, okay, if your guards are so good, then we are going to pound you on the inside. And Jabari, with his mid-range game, which is so retro. There's
Yeah.
not a lot of guys that have a mid-range game anymore. He has one. Those little 15, 16 fall away turnarounds, 16-foot fall away turnaround jumpers. I'm shocked when they don't go in.
Yeah.
And they weren't against Missouri, but they were there the against Oklahoma, and then obviously his front court mate Walker Kessler was dominant in that game.
Yeah.
They didn't have anybody in guard Walker Kessler. They had a guy that looks like he should be wearing flannel shirts out there trying to guard him.
Yeah,
with the headband and the beard and the hair, but he that's funny.
Yeah. But yeah, Walker and Jabari combining for 44 points and over 20 rebounds and 5 blocks and 3 steals. Walker with the third highest plus minus in the team, Jabari with the second highest. We'll talk about who had the first highest in a little bit, but just like you said, the only thing about Walker that a little frustrated me, I think he shot 4 too many threes, and he shot 4 threes. And he made 2 of them, and they were 2 beautiful threes, and he's going to get the best looks possible. I think that's 4 too many for him.
They were daring him to shoot them, and his teammate. He said afterwards that his teammates all encourage him to shoot. They want him to shoot. Coach wants him to shoot.
Oh yeah, but if he can develop that, that changes the whole spacing of the game when he's on the floor.
Unbelievably, because all of a sudden they've got to go out and guard him. They did not go out and guard him, and he was wide open, and he stroked 2 of those 4. I mean, just they were perfect. They were better shots than Devin or Allen from 3. Both of those guys shot air balls.
Yeah.
So I give him credit. They say in practice that he hardly misses from 3.
That's interesting.
And so the coach says, you've got the green light. It's weird, 7'1" guy out there with the green light, but and with those scouts in attendance, if he can show that to them,
yeah, he'll be a first round pick.
That's a big deal. Maybe he'll stay so he can develop that a little bit more next year, but I don't know. We'll see. But you talk about guys this starting lineup, and KD's going to score double digits. I'm convinced he will score double digits in every single game that we have left. He scored 13 he scored 13 in today's game. That is his 13th straight game of having double digits or more, which is just absurd for a guy his size. But he's a psycho. He's amazing. So he shot the ball really well. Zep Jasper had 9 points. That's 9 more points that I think Auburn expects out of Zep Jasper. I agree.
But it's cool to see him go get his. I love it. He had 3 turnovers, which is very odd. But you see a guy like him have a plus 17, go 3 for 3 from the free throw line, get both of those and 1 calls. He gets the 9 points. He had 3 rebounds. Look, if Zep's going to do that, if Wendell wants to have 1 bad game, that's fine.
It is. Zep, when he was at Charleston, was a scorer. And he has taken a different role with this team and just been a defender, which he's maybe the best on-ball defender in the country, or one of them. And he hasn't had to score. And in this game, Wendell was locked up. Wendell couldn't get around people. Yeah. Zep's a little quicker with the ball in his hand and was able to get by some guys. And just look, I'm proud of him. He is a great kid. Yeah. Everything you hear about Zep Jasper is what a great leader, what a great kid. Just really proud that he was able to step up. And you're right, 9 points from Zep Jasper is gravy in my mind. He's not. I expect 2 or 3 points out of him a game and just not turn the ball over, which he did a little bit, but really shoot free throws well and defend the heck out of their best point guard. Yeah. And that's what he does. That's what he does. But guys like Wendell going 1 for 8, Jalen Williams going 0 for 3, that's not going to happen a lot. That is just not that's very, very weird to see those kind of guys have those kind of games, but it's going to happen, especially with Jalen Williams, a little bit in foul trouble in this game. He had the most fouls on the team. But you have guys step up, like Dylan Cardwell had 8 points and 3 rebounds. Can we talk about Dylan Carville for a minute?
Yeah, go ahead. Goodness.
Love Dylan. I love Dylan. The technical foul was a mistake.
Yes, it was.
He gets a little overexcited. I don't even think he was screaming at the guy, but it was his face was pointed at the guy, so you had to call a technical foul.
Yeah.
And Dylan went up to the guy and apologized right after they blew the whistle for a technical. So he's a good kid. But the alley-oop that he tried to throw to Devin Cambridge, I think it was to Devin, that went in. Gosh. I was like, what the?
That's the most Dylan Cardwell thing I think I've ever seen.
Well, it compares to last year, his 3-point.
Oh, his 3-pointer? Yeah.
But look, yeah,
I feel like we're going to have one of those every 5 or 10 games. Just a Dylan Cardwell moment. We just need to have those. But look, Dylan offensively had one of his best games, go 4 for 5 from the field, 8 point. I mean, he also had 3 offensive rebounds. But Dylan jumps at absolutely everything, and you can do it. You can do the smallest pump fake possible. Dylan's going to jump it. I think he just needs to learn how to stay on his feet. I know he wants to block shots, and hey, you're going to block a lot of shots. You're 6'10". You're going to block a lot of shots, not leaving your feet. You're going to block a lot of shots. But I think he just needs to, he's a sophomore. We didn't play a lot of games last year. I'm not like, but
he's got growing to do, not physically, but in the game. Bruce talks about being the second guy to leave the floor.
Yeah.
And Walker's fantastic at that. Doesn't jump very often. When he does, I'm like, what are you doing? You don't need to jump.
Yeah.
And I say the same thing when Dylan does it. You're 6'10". Most of the time you don't need to jump. If you'll wall up and go straight up with them, it's hard to shoot over a guy 6'10", 250.
Yeah.
He's a big man. And look, he is an energy provider.
Yeah.
They call him Red, rebound, energy, defend. And he does those. But I'll be honest with you, again, 8 points from Dylan Cardwell is gravy.
I agree.
I expect maybe 2, 4, maybe. He had 8 points. Now, one of them was on an alley-oop that he threw in the basket. But we
can give that to Devin. We could give that to Dylan. That was just 2 points.
It was funny. Yeah,
that was hilarious. But let's talk about the guy that we haven't talked about at all. That had a very, when I was watching the game and I saw a few possessions and I saw the air ball and I saw the horrific turnover, I was like, dude, Alan Flanagan is just not it. He's just not back to what he was. I don't see it. You go to the stat line, the dude had the highest plus minus at plus 26 in only 25 minutes. He also had the most assists on the team with 4 assists and had 3 defensive rebounds. Look, Allen, the air ball was bad. He had his one turnover, which was his only one, was really bad.
Was bad.
Oh, it was really bad.
It was out at the timeline, and they went down and dunked it.
It was really bad.
It was bad.
Allen had one of the best games.
You don't realize it.
You don't realize it until you go to the stat sheet, and you're like, "Wow, okay, Alan Flanagan. He was a difference maker in this basketball game."
I don't know if it was on the post-game radio show or on a podcast I was listening to after the game, and somebody said Flanagan played great, and I was like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "I thought he played horrible." So I pulled up the stats. I was like, plus 25.
Plus 26.
26. That's insanity.
Yeah.
And he had, what did he end up with? 3 points. So he didn't.
1 of 2 from the line, 1 of 4 from the field, 0 of 1 from 3.
And that
4 assists and 3 rebounds.
Ugly.
Oh, it was bad.
It felt like he had more turnovers. I think it's because I'm combining Oklahoma and Missouri game, and he turned the ball over a lot against Missouri. But he obviously he didn't. He only had 1 in this game. And when he's on the floor, one of the things that it adds to us is we like to run that high screen and roll with Wendell or Zepp. And if that's not working, we push that screen and roll to the wing or the slot and let Allen run it. And because he's being guarded by a 3-man, Allen's quicker than most 3s, and he's built. So he gets into the lane and can dump it off to Walker. He had a couple of his assists were for Walker Kessler dunks. So Wendell wasn't able to get by his man on the high screen and roll. So we shifted that screen and roll to that side or that slot and let Allen run it. And it's really benefit. If he can get downhill, he's
dangerous.
He's good. I don't know that it's look, I was listening to JG Tate today, and Jay was talking about Flanagan and how for 4 or 5 weeks he was immobile.
Yeah.
And now Bruce is just kind of letting him work through the issues. It's not that he's out of shape, but I don't think he's got the burst that he had last year.
Yeah.
I mean, he was flying all over the place last year. He's not there yet. I think if Bruce continues to let him develop a little bit and get healthier and trust that Achilles, maybe by tournament time, it'll be old Allen. If it's old Allen, we're really a dangerous basketball.
Well, yeah, you look at this is the number 1 team right now, and he's not
there.
Been if we see 2020 Allen Flanagan added onto this team, I mean, I don't know what the ceiling is. I mean, this is a national championship contending team.
Caliber team.
Hey, Auburn fans, I want to take a quick timeout from this episode to bring your attention to something very special. Here at the E2C Network, we pride ourselves on bringing you the best content for Auburn fans out there. And best of all, it's free to you. But just because it's free doesn't mean there aren't costs, especially when you have a library of hundreds of podcasts, videos, blogs, and more. Many of you have reached out and asked how you can support this network in the past. Well, now I have your answer. It's called the E2C Network Booster Club over at patreon.com/E2C Network. There you'll find a membership monthly reward system where you can sign up for as little as $1 and get different perks at different tiers. Some of those perks include things such as apparel, eligibility to join us on future podcasts, recognition as an E2C Network booster, exclusive communications, and bonus content that is available nowhere else. If you love this network and want to help us keep producing podcasts like this one, please head on over to patreon.com/E2C Network to join the E2C Network Booster Club. You can also get there by going to our website, e2cnetwork.com/support. Whether you decide to join or not, we are still so appreciative that you would support us by just listening and being here, because each and every one of you is part of our E2C Network family. Well, that's it. Timeout's over. Let's get back into the episode.
Yeah, this one's behind us. This week is behind us. A kind of a weird week with the Missouri and the Oklahoma game, but you get to round it off with a much more let's say rivalry impacted week with this week with Alabama on Tuesday and then at Georgia on Saturday. So let's talk about the Alabama game. Look, this Alabama basketball team has got to be the most inconsistent and confusing basketball team ever. I don't think there's another team that I can even think of. I'm not even just thinking about basketball. I'm thinking like football. I'm thinking baseball. I'm thinking pro sports. I don't see a more confusing team than this, because you have wins over Gonzaga and Seattle. You have wins over Baylor. You have wins over Houston. You have wins over Tennessee.
3 of the 4 Final Four teams last year, right there, by the way.
You have wins over Tennessee, and you lost by 4 against Auburn. You lost, but then you lose to Davidson, and Davidson's pretty good. You lose to Memphis. You lose to Georgia and Mississippi State and Iona. And it's like, what?
Their last week was the most confusing, like you say, confusing week of basketball. You lose to a cellar dweller in Georgia, and really, they beat you pretty good. You didn't look like you were trying in that game. And then you come home and a Baylor team that I don't think is as good as people say they are, or thought they were maybe, and they're missing their leading scorer, which hurt them. But you just absolutely manhandled that.
Yeah, that game was all Alabama. Yeah,
beat crap out of that Baylor team up and down the floor. I was like, holy cow! I'm a little anxious about Tuesday night. I'll be honest with you. If that Alabama team comes in and they're making their outside shots, it could be a tough game. Yeah. If we can keep them from making outside shots, I think we beat them handily.
Yeah.
Uh,
I was
so we'll,
I was texting with my friends that are all Alabama basketball fans, and they, they're completely in agreement that this will either be like an whole world type of game, like where Alabama's making shots and Auburn's making shots, and it'll be back and forth, or Auburn will win by 87.
yeah.
And it depends on which team from Alabama last week shows up on Tuesday in Auburn Arena. Alabama, they've had one win in Auburn Arena the last, 4 years? And it was last year with their all-worldly team and Sharif Cooper's comeback, or Cooper had like 28
26
and 12.
or something. Yeah.
Yeah. And they won by one.
And you understand there was nobody in the building except the two basketball teams.
Yeah.
It will be different Tuesday night. That place will be bumping Tuesday night. I mean, it'll be crazy. So I just don't know how to explain them. They look like a team that did not give a rat's butt about basketball against Georgia. They didn't care. I have a friend who's an Alabama fan too. He came in the next day and was like, "That's the worst team I've ever seen.
Yeah.
They don't care. They don't try." They cared and they tried Saturday.
Yeah,
because they just beat Baylor like they were nothing.
Yeah.
And look,
and they've done that before. They beat Gonzaga like they were nothing. They beat
Gonzaga like a drum.
Tennessee like they were nothing, even though Tennessee was out without their leading scorer. And they beat Houston in that close game in Coleman Coliseum. I mean, those are all top teams right now. And then you got wins against LSU. And LSU's kind of falling off right now, but that's still a big win. And then you got losses like Memphis. Memphis is a dumpster fire right now. Georgia is a dumpster fire right now. Iona, what even was that loss?
Hang on. Let's go back to the Georgia one. Hashtag keep Tom Crean. Thank you. All right, go ahead.
Well, I also want to point out Alabama.
Davidson is not a bad loss.
Georgia football and Georgia basketball won one game in January. Both were against the University of Alabama.
I saw that.
And I was like, oh, that's not a lot of Alabama fans are going to like that one right there.
No.
But no, this will either be a fantastic basketball game on Tuesday night in Auburn Arena, or it will be an absolute butt kicking.
And I hope
it doesn't depend on what Auburn team shows up, because we know what Auburn team is going to show up. The number one team in the country will. Mm-hmm. And it just depends on what Alabama team shows up, and we'll see.
Yeah, they haven't had to play against Walker Kessler. Kessler played 8 minutes in Coleman Coliseum, and got really bad foul calls on him. Yeah. If he can stay out of foul trouble and make them have to guard him too. Dylan played great in Coleman Coliseum, probably his best game ever, but he wasn't Walker Kessler.
No.
Walker is a different dynamic to this team. And if we can get Wendell going to where he's getting into the middle of the lane, if Wendell or Zepp get in the middle of the lane, we will kill you.
Yeah.
So you better guard pick and roll, because we're going to run it, and you better guard the flex cuts, because we're going to run them. Yep. Those are two of the simplest plays in basketball that have been run forever, but we run them well.
Yeah.
So let's can we do two things? First, we need to do player of the game from Oklahoma, and then I also want to congratulate Alan Green on locking down.
You're right. Let's talk about that first. Let's talk about that first. We haven't gotten a chance to speak about that. So Friday night, this whole earlier this week, we saw the opening with Louisville, and then the opening with Maryland still intact, and Bruce being mentioned in those two schools. And apparently there was mutual interest between his agent and Louisville when the Cardinals job opened up. And
that was reported by Kentucky. That was reported by Kentucky sportscasters.
Yeah, but it helped.
Yeah. It helped. It helped him. Oh yeah.
But then the board of trustees had a meeting, and we have approved a new basketball facility.
That's
that
on
Bruce
the agenda,
has been asking for.
I don't think that they've. I don't think they've actually.
But that's on the agenda.
On the agenda. Yeah.
And then Bruce was signed an extension through 2030, an 8-year extension to sign him up for life The starts at $5.4 million and increases $250,000 a year. That's Allen Green's best move by far.
I think it is. He went over Friday night to the basketball facility. He and Major, I forget the guy's name, one of the other guys, Major Burgess, thank you, went to the facility. Auburn beat writers were like, oh, hey, there's Allen Green and Major Burgess are in the athletic facility talking to Bruce. And within about 3 hours, he put out that video of him and Bruce saying the deal is done. He's going to stay here. They called it a lifetime contract. It's an 8-year contract, but Bruce is getting ready to in March will turn 62. So that puts him at turning 70 when this comes to an end. And at that point, I think he turns it over to his son.
Yeah.
And they go from there. So I'm thrilled to death to have Bruce Pearl be our coach for the next 8 years. And
absolutely,
I think you're underpaying him at what you are now. It's the Saban effect. It's what he does for all parts of the university. He's a marketing genius.
Yeah.
And he brings people, he makes students want to come to the university, and he promotes the university, and that's worth more than you can probably put a number on.
Yeah, I agree. It's big to have a guy like that back and signed on for life, just like Allen Green said. That is Allen Green's best move, and we'll see how the Harsin hire kind of, because that Harsin hire will make or break Allen Green, but this is Allen Green's best move, and it's not even close. Mm-hmm. But we'll go ahead and do player of the game, and then we'll get out of here before we go too long. But
potting after dark.
Yeah, it is late. It is late right now. But we'll go ahead and do player of the game. I'll go first. I think you could go with one or two guys. I think you can go with the front court here. I think I could have just named the front court and kind of just put you in a bind. I'm gonna go Jabari Smith. That dude, just like I said earlier in the podcast, we were talking about him and his game. He had a staple game when it comes to the NBA because of he showed everything that he can do and more in this basketball game. 23 points, 12 rebounds, 2 steals, the second highest plus minus on the team behind Flanagan just by 1. 9 for 10 from the free throw line. Dude, 6'10". Like what? And I think it's Jabari Smith.
All right. I don't know how I can go wrong on either of these two guys. So I'll go with Walker. Walker had 21 points, 9 of 11 from the floor, 2 of 4 from 3-point range. He made his only free throw and had 9 rebounds and 4 block shots. Only 1 personal foul. If he can play that game Tuesday night, Auburn wins going away.
Handily.
Yeah, Handily. They win going away. If he can do that. He played 30 minutes. Our minutes were a little higher on our starters this week, but he was plus 24, so he was only 1 behind Jabari in that respect. But he was they didn't have anybody that could guard him or Jabari.
Yeah,
and it was evident. They had people who could guard Wendell and Zep and KD, although KD had a fantastic game. But they didn't have anybody that could guard Jabari or Walker. Yeah. And I don't think Alabama really does either.
Yeah, no, I agree. Charles Bediako and the bigs at Alabama are Walker Kessler, Jabari Smith, and we'll see how that goes on Tuesday night. And we'll be back to discuss that on Tuesday. You can find all of the podcasts that we do on the E2C network. You can find on the YouTube channel with the E2C network, or you can find on Twitter at E2C_network. And you can find me on Twitter at Gray Oldenburg, or on Instagram at GrayO21. You can go, I know you just made me a face because you thought I was skipping you. You go ahead.
You can't skip me. By the way, to go to the E2C network, Kyle did an interview with Allie Davison about the money that was raised. So kind of a cool interview. Yeah. You can find me at IamCTO, and I'll look forward to getting blocked by the SEC officials before this year is over. Goodness. It's my goal.
Yeah, hopefully you don't have to say anything bad against for that and get blocked like that. But we'll go ahead and get out of here. And until next time, War Eagle.
War Eagle.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode on the E2C Network. On your way out, I want to remind you to stop by e2cnetwork.com. It's your one-stop shop for all our content across our podcast, YouTube channel, and much more. To stay up to date with us, make sure you're following social media accounts such as Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. While our content here may always be Auburn sports heavy, if it's orange and blue, it's what we do. War Eagle.